The retarded hedge fund manager. Inception of Futuris, the European hedge fund of the decade. The hedge fund Futuris was incepted in October 1999 by the Norwegians Arne Wagen and Morten Groven. Due to certain legislative quirks regarding money management in Norway at the time, as well as Mr. Wagen's connection with the Swedish financial giant Patrick Brummer, the fund company was founded in Sweden. Arne was the managing director for the stockbroker firm Alfred Berg in Norway. During his 5 years at the helm in the second half of the 1990s, Alfred Berg Norway was the most profitable broker in Scandinavia. It was Patrick Brummer who hired Arne in the first place. Patrick was the driving force at the parent company Alfred Berg Sweden for several decades, before founding Brummer and Partners, the largest hedge fund group in Northern Europe. I owe all of my success in the hedge fund industry to Arne and Morten, who started the fund, raised the money, took the risk, and to my closest colleague Matthias for suggesting me as his stablemate at Futuris. I'll nevertheless sometimes use the notion "my fund" for short, though it obviously wasn't my fund. I just worked there and was the second biggest active shareholder partner, tied with Matthias. This happened. Futuris's 63 most important decisions. I'm sorry if this gets a bit technical, but we just have to get some financial facts out of the way first. Bear with me for a minute, but if you're tempted to skip a few pages, just take this with you on the way. Futuris was a strange beast in hedge fund land and simply spectacular. The chart below depicts Futuris's overall market exposure between its inception in October 1999 and its closing 15 years later, or 180 months, in September 2014. The black line shows the fund's net exposure, i.e., the net position equals bought, owned, long holdings of stocks minus sold, negative short positions, as a percentage of total assets under management, AUM. The blue dashed line shows the gross exposure, the absolute value of longs plus shorts. The grey area is the 6-month moving average for the net exposure, which makes it easier to spot general exposure trends such as being short in 2008 and 2012. A positive reading for the net exposure means the fund should on average gain from rising markets and lose from falling markets. There are 180 points of net exposure on the chart. Of these, 63 can be considered major decision events, repositioning the fund significantly longer or shorter than the previous month. Condensing 180 months of portfolio exposure can give the illusion of extremely frequent and rapid changes. Most equity hedge funds make sure to keep their net exposure between just 50 to 75% net long at all times, and never change exposure significantly from month to month. We were different. As can be seen in the chart, Futuris's range was an incredible minus 60% net short to 150% net long, leveraged long. In addition, we changed position frequently and quickly. Not only did we venture above 100% net long, i.e. leveraged long, borrowing to buy more stocks than we had assets under management, we had the audacity to go net short too, and not just by a little or for short periods of time. We exhibited full year stretches of being on average more than 50% net short. For a long-short equity hedge fund, that was tantamount to being just as retarded as I am now. It was almost as if we wanted to go out of business, or as if we knew something others didn't. We thus presented a serious challenge for any client who wanted to fit Futuris into their investment matrix, since they couldn't decide what kind of hedge fund we were: a market, neutral, long-short equity, Swedish, Scandinavian, European, or global, short-biased, levered long, all of the above. No matter how good we were or how many years we added to our track record, Futuris continued to be a tough story to sell. Spectacular but unwanted. Why? Proof is not good enough. You need a story. I eventually learned a very important lesson. Not just about hedge funds or clients or running a business, but about people and life in general. Storytelling matters. In my attempts at persuading client prospects, I naively thought a good track record of high returns and low volatility would be enough. That, however, didn't cut it for serious institutional investors, with hundreds of billions of dollars to invest. No, they demanded to see a tangible investment model and evidence of rigorous risk management procedures. If nothing else, just to have something to show their investment boards or end clients. Well, committees and strict procedures is what landed investors with hundreds of billions of bad housing loans, not to mention fully loaded stock portfolios right before some of the worst market crashes in history. Still, we really could have used a good storyteller. Lesson: facts and proof never sway people. Narratives do. Humans are made for stories. Our brains make up stories about the world, about past and present events, to make sense of otherwise chaotic and overwhelming stimuli. Just facts are useless in most contexts, unless there is a compelling narrative. How to miss a billion. Hold on just a while longer, or skip a few pages if you must, but to get the framework right, I want to go through a couple of observations regarding the business of marketing the fund, in contrast to running it and doing the actual investing. Futurist could and should have reached 10 times its peak size of 1 billion euros or 1.3 billion US dollars, given the fund's raw performance over more than a decade. That would also have made me a 9-figure net worth in USD, just about 1 billion Swedish krona, rather than my current 8-figure. The reason we didn't is that we never quite did understand how to market the fund. I am the one to blame the most here. Due to my slight autism spectrum disorder, albeit not professionally diagnosed, I never took marketing or reading people seriously, assuming our numbers would speak for themselves. My bad. No billion for me. Next question, please. Poor marketing, poor schmarketing. That was fun, winning a prestigious award, that is, but perhaps not what we needed. Winning, unfortunately, closed my eyes to the bitter truth about marketing, in particular when we finally started to attract clients in droves. Eventually, after the decade win, when Futurist was over 10 years old, money poured in, at least relative to our history. We even got within 3% of voluntarily closing the fund for new money. At that time, I thought I had finally struck exactly the right balance of eccentricity and cockiness, combined with a convoluted black box investment model that allowed for a certain pragmatic style drift, not to mention showing up in the 10+ years old funds category in ranking tables. Much later did I understand that our admittedly belated sales success wasn't a result of my genius and unorthodox presentation and narrative. It was all about performance after all. We simply got so good they couldn't ignore us. Cal, Newport, despite all our flaws, eccentric, cocky, black box style drift, mastering one bull market, several bear markets, as well as the 2009-10 brick Fed turnaround was just too much to pass on. We were the best, and when you actually are the number one, your style doesn't matter. The problem is you rarely stay at first place for very long. After mid-2011, when we stumbled performance-wise, it was all too easy to withdraw investments from the cocky, style-drifting, unpredictable black box that we more or less had communicated we were. Lesson: face the facts. Analyze the facts, the actual adequate causality, not just what fits your desire for greatness. Don't get cocky. Analyze what actually went right and wrong respectively, instead of just assuming everything in a winning streak or good trade is optimized or even right. Our client inflow was despite my marketing style, not thanks to it. The same lesson can be applied to good or bad trades. Make sure you know what part is luck and what part was skill. Lesson: if you run a business, run it. Take every aspect seriously. Marketing and communicating is at least as important as producing. Considering the undesigned look of this book, you are free to wonder if I ever heed my own lessons. The client is right. Without clients, you don't even have a business. You must be able to explain the product to the client, using their language. Imagine what the client is perceiving. Understand their perspective. In investing, you don't have to be the best. Being a nice compliment is good enough, but you have to be explicable and marketable. Being number one is not a long-term strategy. You should still do your thing, market your product, but be sure to tweak the communication to fit the client. In retrospect, I know many prospective clients really wanted to invest, which I thought would be enough to close the deal, so I left it at that. If only I had said the right words, such as elaborating on our formal stop-loss procedure, formal investment committee, formal CIO, clear, concise and consistent investment strategy, investment universe, and investment process.